All right, what is up, everybody? We are back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today, I'm going to be trying to give what every team's expectations should be next season. We're getting very close to the NBA season. We're about a month away from us getting, revved up and excited for the NBA season. I'm going to try to give every team what their expectations should be and what they should be looking forward to next year. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn on notifications, doing all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. I'll link to my Twitter and all that stuff down in the description below. And yeah, don't want to waste any more of your time. Let's get right into it. So we're gonna go through every team in order. I'm gonna give my expectations of what if I was the team, what would I want for next season. We're gonna go down in order. I also have my list on the side. That's why I'm looking on the side. Starting with the Atlanta Hawks. Mine is good regular season and a competitive first round series. The Hawks had a really good free agency, one of the biggest winners of free agency. Bringing guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, they brought in Kristaps Porzingis. This looks like a really good team. Hopefully, they have a healthy year of Jalen Johnson. Like Dyson Daniels coming off an MIP year, Zachary Versace going into year two. This is a good looking Atlanta Hawks team. Probably maybe the best Atlanta Hawks team they've had in a while since that conference finals run team 4 or 5 years ago. But now, looking at the Eastern Conference with a couple teams being different, and the Eastern Conference after the top two is kind of wide open a little bit. I think a good regular season is in order. I put in my notes about a 45 plus win season. I think that could be very realistic. The last couple years they've been around like 40. I think last year they won 40. It's been like 40, 41, 39. They've been between like the 37 to 42 range for the past couple years. I think going a little bit above that, I think a 45 plus, not saying they have to win 50 plus. I think 45 plus in that range, a 45 and 37, 46, 36 type season, I think is really good for the Hawks. And then a competitive first round series. I'm not expecting them to be a team that goes on a deep playoff run or anything like that. But I think a competitive first round series where it gets to 6-7, they have a realistic chance of winning, maybe even winning that first round series and making it to the second round. I think that's a big success. I think that's great expectations for them. Making it to the playoffs, being a locked in top 6 seed, and making it a great playoff series and showing us a lot of hope. And showing that we are building this team really right around Trae Young. I think that should be the expectation for Atlanta, and I think that's very realistic because, again, with the Eastern Conference, things are kind of up in the air right now. With this team, with this free agency, I think they can really do that. Next to the Boston Celtics, this was one of the tougher teams to kind of figure out because no Tatum for most of the year. With the moves they made in the offseason, they traded away a lot of their championship, guys. So mine, I put good draft pick. Now, there's two ways the Celtics can go. They can either go one way, which is we play the season out. We hope that Jaylen Brown, who's also coming off a knee procedure in the offseason, has an All-NBA year. Derek White can be really good. We have Anthony Simons. Hopefully he can be really good. Payton Pritchard can be really good. And with the Eastern Conference right now, the Celtics can make a playing appearance, maybe make an 8-7 seed in the East. I think that's very realistic. Maybe even make a top 6 seed and be better than expected. Because they still have some really good players, have a really good coach. The way they play, they're going to get up a lot of shots. And if you get up a lot of shots, you're going to have a chance to win every night. Like, they still have a good team. But looking at the moves they made this offseason, trading away Jrue Holiday, which is something they had to do, trading with Porzingis, something they had to do, and with their free agency signings, like all the guys they've signed, Luka Garza, Josh Minot, like they haven't signed any like solidified, like really good role player type of guys. They signed a lot of young players to 1-and-1 deals to see what happens. They don't really have a center. Right now, I guess it's going to be a combination of Neemias Queta and Luka Garza battling out for that starting center spot. Looks like Al Horford's probably not coming back to this team. So I think there's another direction that they can go, which I'm predicting could be the direction, which is not necessarily tanking, not saying we're going to win 17 games, but maybe doing something similar to what the Grizzlies did a couple years ago with no Ja Morant, no Desmond Bane. They kind of said, all right, you know what? Let's just kind of take a step back, regroup. Jaren, you go off. Let's let some of these young guys like Gigi Jackson, Vince Williams go out and play, get a good draft pick, and then we regroup next season. I think the Celtics can do something similar to that, where not saying they're going to hold Jaylen Brown out, but if Jaylen Brown's knee isn't 100%, just kind of being like, hey, JB, if your knee's not fully healthy, you don't really have to play. Luka Garza and Neemias Queta, you go out there and play. Baylor Shireman, Jordan Walsh, you're going to get an opportunity this year. Payton Pritchard, go ahead, get 35, 36 minutes. We don't, not necessarily going all in on, like at the All-Star break, if they're in like the 10, 11 range, between 9, 10, and 11 range, they might hold out some of their guys in the second half of the year and be like, hey, you know what? Let's just go. They have their own first round pick this year in a supposedly good draft class. Maybe they say, you know what? Let's just go try to get a good draft pick. Bring someone, a young player in to kind of help fit this system. Hope for Jason Tatum to come back next year and we regroup from there. So for my expectations, I put good draft pick. Maybe if they do make the playoffs and make an 8 seed and make a competitive first round, that's cool. But for me personally, I think if I'm the Celtics, I'm looking a little bit more toward that second route of like, hey, let's not force anything. And maybe let's go try to get a good draft pick and regroup for next year. For the Brooklyn Nets, young development, they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league next season. They have a lot of young players. Just brought in 5 first-round draft picks. Just traded for Kobe Buffkin. Cam Thomas is back. They got a lot of young players. Michael Porter Jr. is here now. A lot of young players are just trying to figure out things. Rudy Fernandez is a really good coach. Right now, it's about young development. What is Cam Thomas going to look like next year on a prove-it deal? Can he have a full healthy year and show some things? What does Michael Porter Jr. look like? But more the younger players, like guys like Noah Clowney, Derek Whitehead that we've drafted. What do they look like? Yegor Demon, what is he going to look like? Nolan Traore, Danny Wolf, Ben Saroff. Get these guys some opportunity. Drew Timmy maybe get some opportunity. Let's get these guys some opportunity, show what they can do, and it's a rebuild. Young development. Let's hope that someone sticks out maybe next year. Someone shows some signs of sticking out in the future. For the Hornets, I put in my notes, show something promising. Meaning, not saying, like, I don't think the Hornets should be winning 19 games anymore. I feel like it's been a couple of years. I think we should be past the point of them being the 14th seed in the Eastern Conference. You know what I mean? Like, I think this year should be a year where they show some promise. They don't have to make the playoffs. They don't have to win the play-in. But I think showing some promise and showing that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and like I think that should be what the Hornets should be doing. Like, can we get to 30 wins? Can we be a 30-win team in the East? Can LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller have a healthy year? And can we finally see our star players that we're trying to invest in and trying to build around? Can we finally see them be healthy and see them develop and show signs? What can Continental look like? Can we find a big for the future? What do some of these guys like Josh Green and Nick Smith Jr., Tajon Salon, what do they look like? We brought in some rookies like Sion James. Like, can we just show some promise that we can be a functioning organization and not be a garbage dumpster fire? A lot of that is on LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball hasn't played over 50 games in the last 3 years. And so the key number one is going to be, can LaMelo Ball be healthy for a year and play more than 50 games? That's number one. Can Brandon Miller show some development? And then just seeing, can we be promising? Can we maybe make a play-in appearance, a play-in push in the Eastern Conference? Again, with the Eastern Conference being wide open, the Hornets, there is a realistic pathway for the Hornets to be solid next season. So can we show something promising next year? That should be the expectation for Charlotte. Can we not be a dumpster fire? For the Chicago Bulls, they were another very tough team to put because they're always kind of in this weird spot. The ownership wants to be a playoff team, a play-in team, but realistically, they should be a team trying to not be good. So I just put young development. That's kind of like the safe route. Josh Giddey just got $100 million, which I don't think is a bad thing. He showed a lot of promise in the second half of the year. He's still only 22 years old. It's probably the best young player they have on their roster, so let's get him. Matas Buzelis, can he have a good year too and show that he can be a good NBA player in the future? Can Patrick Williams do anything this upcoming season? I think it should be about young development, hoping some of these young guys can show out, and honestly, more than that, can we find a direction? I feel like I've been saying this for the past 4 years. Can we find a direction of some sort? Are we going all in? Are we going all in on playoff? Are we going all in on being bad? The Bulls have been like dang near the poster child of the bad middle of the NBA, where it's like they're not horrible enough to be a 20-win team, but they're not good enough to be a 40-win team. They're just like in that middle of like 34 to 37, 10 seed. We're gonna make a play-in appearance every year, and it's just kind of like, all right, we got to do something here. So I think I put young development as kind of like the main key, but I think finding a direction is very important for the Bulls. Cleveland Cavaliers win the East. Pretty simple. Make it far, deep playoff run. They probably are the best team in the Eastern Conference. They're one of the top probably five-ish teams in the NBA. Last year they won 64 games, but a disappointing second round exit once again. And now this is the time right now. They have to have their deep playoff run. If not this year, then when? Basically for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Win the East. They're probably going to be a number one seed again in the Eastern Conference. They're probably going to be another 60-win team potentially with how the Eastern Conference looks. It's at least conference finals. At least let's make it to the conference finals. Another second round exit and big changes are going to happen over there in Cleveland with some of their guys. At least the conference finals appearance. And if you lose to the Knicks in a 6 or 7 game conference final, I think that's a good season for the Cavaliers. But their expectation should be win the Eastern Conference, make a finals appearance, and show we're the best team in the East and finally have that deep playoff run that we've been trying to get for the past two years. For the Dallas Mavericks, I put playoffs / give championship hope. They're not going to have Kyrie Irving for a lot of the season, and that's obviously going to change a lot of their direction. He's their second best, potentially even best player. So the Mavericks, we know they have championship aspirations. They were in the finals 2 years ago. They made the trade for Luka, and the only way really to make up for the trade of Luka is going and winning a championship and bringing home some jewelry. I'm not expecting this year for them to be a championship contender, but I think giving championship hope, showing some signs of being like, oh, okay, there's a blueprint for this team. Again, with no Kyrie Irving, it's gonna be very tough. If they had Kyrie for the full year, my expectations would be a little bit higher. But I think with no Kyrie Irving for a lot of the year, and with D'Lo, as their starting point guard, again, there's reports that the other day of like we don't know if Anthony Davis is gonna be ready for opening night. I don't know what that is about, but I think giving some hope and showing signs and a blueprint of this team can make a deep playoff run. Because on paper, I like this team. When you have Kyrie, it be Kyrie, Clay as a shooter, Cooper Flag can be a really good Swiss Army knife type of player, and he's going to be a big, key to this team on how good this team is going to be. You have AD finally at the 4 now with a Gafford, Lively off the bench. You have guys like D'Lo, Najee Marshall, Max Christie, PJ Washington is still here. Like on paper, this is a good roster. This is a roster that can make a run in the Western Conference for sure. But I think this year might not be the year. But if they can show some hope and some promise and have some moments where they look like, oh shoot, this team they got something here. They got something here. I think that should be a win for the Mavs if they can do that. For the Denver Nuggets, I put win the West. Simple. They have the best player in the world. This is maybe the best team they've put around him. Brandon, Cam Johnson, Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., Jonas Valanciunas. They make great moves in the offseason. They have the best player in the world. The expectation should be win the West. Last year, they're 1 win away from taking out the champions with not a great roster, maybe the worst roster they've put around Nikola Jokic. So now you counter that with the best roster potentially around him. The expectation should be we're going to the finals. We can win the Western Conference with this team. So I think the expectation is very high in Denver. The Houston Rockets, for me, I put for the Rockets playoff series win. Obviously, they went out, they got Kevin Durant. They brought in guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, Clint Capella. They had an amazing offseason for a team that already won 52 games or 1 win away from going to the second round last year in their first ever playoff run with this core. Now you bring in Kevin Durant. The expectations are, you suppose they're going to be one of the top teams in the regular season in the Western Conference. I'm not putting championship expectations on them this season. Now, after the year, next year, the expectations go up depending on how this year looks because you assume this year is going to look pretty good. For me, I think winning a playoff series and making it a really good competitive second round series is a win for them. Obviously, I think this team is good enough. They're probably going to be a 50-plus win team, probably a top 3-ish seed in the Western Conference. I think they should be able to take care and win a first-round matchup for sure. Once we get to the second round, depends on the matchup. But I think making a competitive second-round series where they look like they can win that series, go to a 6 or 7 game, I think that's a win for the Rockets. Again, this is only going to be realistically their second year of being a really good team. This is only going to be Şengün's second playoff run. Like Men Thompson's second playoff run. Tari Eason's second playoff run. I'm not expecting them to go out and win a championship right now this season. But again, after this season, then we could talk in 2027. But this year, I think a playoff series win, showing some signs, competitive second round series, I think that's a really big win for them. I actually skipped a couple of teams for some reason. I don't know why. My notes I have it in order, but for some reason I went right to the Rockets. Detroit Pistons. I put outside development / competitive first round series. Outside development meaning, can we find, like, what are the pieces going to be around Cade Cunningham for this future. We already know Cade Cunningham, superstar. He's going to be our guy. He's a franchise. We already know that. Finding another guy and finding the pecking order of what this team's going to be. Can Jalen Duren have a full year? Because last year it was very up and down to start, and then he kind of figured it out late in the year. Can Jalen Duren put together a really full season of showing that he is our center of the future? Can Asar Thompson, can he show a lot of signs and show that he is a piece of the future for this team? Can Ron Holland have a good second year and show that there is some hope for him being a part of this future? Jane Ivey coming back from his leg injury, can he be our number 2? Can he show that he can be the guy next to Cade Cunningham for the future? Like the for the Pistons, a lot of it is outside development, and can we find a piece next to Cade Cunningham that we feel good about and we know for the next 5-ish years they're going to be on this roster with Cade Cunningham. And then competitive first round series. Again, the Eastern Conference, with it being how it is, the Pistons can definitely probably be similar to last year. They could probably be another 44, 45 win team. I don't know about getting to 50 wins yet, but I think another 44, 45 win season is definitely in store. And I think in competitive first round matchup, depending on the matchup, I think another series like they did last year with the Knicks where they get to 6, maybe even get to 7. And I think that's good. I'm not expecting them to go out and be winning playoff series right away this season. Because again, the outside development I think is more important, and the bigger key is finding the other pieces around Cade. But I think another competitive first round series that they have a potential to win and look like they have a chance of winning, I think that's a W for Detroit. For the Golden State Warriors, I put deep playoff run. Obviously, their expectations are probably we got to win another championship for Steph Curry. We have Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green. That should be championship aspirations. And deep playoff run basically kind of means, high expectations. But for me personally, I just don't believe they're one of the best teams in the Western Conference. I think I would put 3 to 4-ish teams comfortably above the Golden State Warriors right now. But they do have the talent to go far. I mean, you have Steph Curry on your roster. When you have Steph Curry, he's shown he's still one of the game changers in the league. Jimmy Butler, I really like Jimmy Butler edition. I really liked how he played last year for the Warriors. Draymond Green is still there. You still have some decent rosters. They still haven't really made moves. They still, I think, only have like 9 or 10 players on their roster, and we're a couple weeks away from getting a training camp, so they definitely gonna have to make something happen there. I think they're still waiting on Al Horford, and that would be a solid move bringing him in. But I think again, deep playoff run. We have all these vets. They're one of the oldest teams in the, if not maybe the oldest team in the NBA. So the expectations are obviously going to be, we got to make a run and we got to win another chip. For the Indiana Pacers, they're another team that was very weird. Like they're a team, I sat here for a minute and I was like, what should I put for them? No Tyrese Halliburton for next year, but I think they're still good enough to be able to be a playoff team in the East. For me, I put outside development, meaning you're not going to have Halliburton for this season. Let's see what others have, mainly Andrew Nembhard. A lot of people are expecting Andrew Nembhard to have an MIP type year, and I think a big key for the Pacers is if he can show that, he can be, with a bigger workload on him, probably going to be the full-time point guard and full-time, guy handling the ball and making things happen for the offense. Can he do that? Can we find a big man? Right now, their center position is very, it's like Thomas Bryant, Jay Huff, Isaiah Jackson, James Wiseman, I think, is back. It's a very kind of like not good. So can we find something at the center position that can make happen, or maybe a trade at the deadline that can find a center? What does Aaron Nesmith look like? Another year of Ben Shepherd. Another year, what does Bennedict Mathurin look like now in this role? You assume he's going to have a bigger role and more opportunity to show his game. I think this is a big kind of a little bit of a make or break year for Bennedict Mathurin to show what his role is going to be like in the future of the NBA. Can Jarace Walker get some opportunity? So I think more of the outside development and kind of answering questions on what this team is going to look like when Tyrese Halliburton comes back and when we're ready to make our playoff run again in 2027. LA Clippers, deep playoff run. Very simple. They have a really good team. They had a really good offseason, bringing in guys like they brought in Brook Lopez, they brought in John Collins, they brought in Bradley Beal. This is a really good looking team. Maybe the best team they've had on paper in a little while. This is a really good team on paper. And they haven't won a playoff series in, I don't think they haven't won a playoff series since 2021, since the year they made it to the conference finals with Paul George. So they haven't won a playoff series in a long time. I think a playoff series win for sure, and I think a deep playoff run. Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Bradley Beal not getting any younger. This is another one of the older teams in the league. And so it's, deep playoff run. Can we make another conference final appearance? That's what it is now for the Clippers. It's can we win playoff series For the Lakers, I also put deep playoff run. You have LeBron James and Luka Doncic, two of the top 10 players in the NBA. So a deep playoff run and winning a playoff series or two is always going to be the expectation basically in LA, especially when there's a superstar in LA. But now with Luka and LeBron, yeah. I'm not super as adamant on deep playoff run as I may be in with Golden State and the Clippers because like unlike those two other teams, they have a young superstar like Luka Doncic who's going to be around for a while. So they have the opportunity, they have more chances at the dartboard than the Clippers and the Warriors and teams do. Because Luka's still only like what 26 years old. So yeah, I mean they have a solid team. I wouldn't consider them one of the top teams in the West, but I do think they have a solid team. And when you have Luka and LeBron, you're always going to be able to win games. But it's also, I guess, outside development is a little bit of a factor here as well in terms of expectations of like what Austin Reeves is going to look like. What should that be? Yeah. So I think for the Lakers, is deep playoff run. Win playoff series. Let's see how far we can get with Luka and LeBron. For the Grizzlies, I put competitive first round series / give hope. They made a big move this offseason, trading away Desmond Bane. The team on paper doesn't look as great as it has the last couple years, and we still haven't seen that version of the Grizzlies that from 2 or 3 years ago when they were winning 50 games and second seed in the Western Conference and all that stuff. I think a competitive first round series. The Western Conference is very tough right now, so I don't expect them to be one of the top teams in the West. I expect them to be between the 7 through 10 range in the Western Conference. I think a competitive first round series and giving some hope that there is something still here. I think we haven't really seen the Grizzlies have that type of hope of like, oh shoot, there's something here since like 2023. It's been a couple years. So I think given hope, I think Ja Morant having an All NBA and looking more like the Ja Morant we saw a couple years ago when we thought he was going to be a future superstar in this league. I think Jaren Jackson having a career year. I think getting some guys to have big years, like KCP bounce back after a bad year last year in Orlando. What is Zach Edey, even though he's going to miss a couple first half of a lot of the season, look like? Santi Aldama, can he improve? Jalen Wells in year 2, what does he look like? It's a lot of just giving hope and trying to show that there is a blueprint. What does Thomas Isola look like now as a full-time head coach? Giving some hope to this Grizzlies team and this organization that they should still be able to bet on this team and that there's still some hope that this team can be a future of like one of the better teams in the West eventually at one point in time. The Miami Heat were another very weird team to kind of try to give expectations for because I think in their mind they think they're a lot better than what they realistically are. For Pat Riley and them, it's about banners and championships and making another playoff run. But realistically, they're not one of the best teams in the East. Realistically, they're more around the 7 to 8 team in the East. Maybe they can get to 6 or 5 on a really good year, but realistically, they're not really that good. So I didn't know what to put for them. So for me, I put competitive first round series / series win ? I think they haven't really had a competitive series in a while. The last 2 years, they've been bounced in the first round pretty quickly. Last year, they got swept. The year before, they lost in 5 to Boston without Jimmy Butler. We all knew how that series was going to turn out. So they haven't really had a competitive series in a long time since 2023 when they were making their, March Madness run as the 8 seed to the finals. So I think a competitive first round series can be good. A series win, potentially, depending on where they match up, would be good as well. Also, some outside development in here as well. Like Tyler Hero, can he, improve on what he did last year? Can Bam Adebayo step up? What does Kelly Ware look like a year 2? Norman Powell's now here. Can he have a similar season to what he looked like last year when he broke out? What does Andrew Wiggins look like as a full time, with a full off season? Can guys like Jaime Jaquez, Davion Mitchell, Nikola Jovic, Pele Larson, what do they look like now? Kaspar Jonas, can he show something in his rookie year? A lot of outside development too for this Heat, expectations wise, but I think more a competitive series and maybe winning a series. I think realistically should be what the Heat kind of are looking for. For the Bucks, I put playoff series win. The Milwaukee Bucks have not won a playoff series since 2022. It's been over 3 years since the Milwaukee Bucks have won a playoff series. That's kind of crazy to say out loud when they have one of the best players in the world in Giannis Antetokounmpo. This roster does not look good at all around Giannis. But realistically, the expectations, when you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, realistically, the expectations are, winning. And that's all Giannis wants to do to keep him happy. So I think a playoff series win and getting out of the first round should be the expectation for the Milwaukee Bucks. Even though the roster doesn't look like it could do that, realistically, for the Milwaukee Bucks organization, it should be we have to win a playoff series and we have to win games. You know, a fourth straight first round exit doesn't not look good for Milwaukee. So winning a playoff series should be what they want. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, I put deep playoff run / win the West ? They made it to the conference finals for the past 2 years, and they've been dealt easily in the conference finals. This offseason didn't make them a whole lot better, but they also aren't really that much worse. They lost to Alexander Walker, but really that's it. They're relying a lot on the young development of guys like Terrence Shannon Jr. and Rob Dillingham, and hoping that those guys are ready to contribute to a team that has very high expectations. I think they definitely can make another conference finals run. I think a conference finals run at least should be the expectation from Minnesota. When you made it there the last 2 years, obviously you think you got to make it back and make it better. And I think for their sake, win the West is expectation for them. I think they think we made it to the conference finals 2 years in a row. That means you're right there. We should be able to win the Western Conference. Realistically, I don't think they're win the West. I think I would put a couple other teams before them in terms of winning the Western Conference. But for their sake, I think winning the West is big. But I think another deep playoff run, making it back to the conference finals, should be what they want to do, obviously. The New Orleans Pelicans, another very weird team to kind of figure out what they should be. Last year was such a horrible season for them. They're in a situation that I don't like. I don't really like the Pelicans a lot right now. Like, it's weird. So for them, I put make playoffs / show hope. I don't think they should be a tanking team because I think they have too much talent on their roster to be tanking and going after a superstar. But then again, like, I really don't know. I put make playoffs just kind of as like a, yeah. I mean, they've made what, 2 playoff series, 2 playoff appearances in this kind of era that they've had, and Zion hasn't played in any of them, and they haven't really shown a lot of promise when it comes to there. So I think making the playoffs / showing less about making the playoffs, more about showing some hope and showing that there is something here. Because we realistically haven't seen anything that showed there's something here in a long time for the Pelicans. Last year was a complete disaster. Injuries galore. You know, no one was really healthy last season for New Orleans besides like Yves Missi and CJ McCollum, who they should have traded last year at the deadline, but they waited till the offseason. Now it's like you have Zion, Jordan Poole, DeJounte Murray, Trey Murphy still here, Yves Missi. Like, they have talent on this team. Like, they have players that I like individually on this roster. It's just as a collective, I'm not really super excited about this team. So the expectation should be showing some hope and showing some excitement that makes people believe and make them believe that there's still some hope here in New Orleans somewhere. OKC Thunder, pretty simple, championship. They won last year. They should be able to win again. You know, they are realistically, they're going to be one of the best teams in the league again, maybe the best team in the NBA right now. They're probably going to win another 60 plus games. And right now, we already won one with this roster. You assume that with this core of this team, guys like J-Dub and Chet Holmgren are going to get better. And that should mean winning another championship and eventually becoming a dynasty. For the Orlando Magic, I put playoff series win. I think for the Magic, they have made the playoffs the last 2 years. The year 2023, was it 2023? No, 2024, they're 1 win away from making it to the second round. Last year, they lose to the Celtics in 5 in a gross competitive 5-game series. Now they bring in Desmond Bane, who I think should be a huge piece for them. You know, they have someone that could finally shoot the ball on the perimeter. Hopefully, you hope for another healthy year with Paolo and Franz. Jalen Suggs should be back. Like, this roster on paper is a solid roster in the Eastern Conference. Should be between the 4 through 6 range in the Eastern Conference, potentially maybe 3, depending on how things go. And I think a playoff series win could be in order. Now, if they don't win the first round series and they go to a 7-game series, I don't think that's bad either. A competitive first round series is kind of like the floor, I think, for this team. But I think they have enough talent to be able to win a series in the Eastern Conference. I think they have enough talent to do that. So I think that should be the expectation of winning a playoff series, and let's, start moving along this kind of this team building. For the New York Knicks, I put win the East. Pretty simple. Made it to the conference finals last year. They look like they potentially could be the best team in the Eastern Conference this coming season. They brought in some reinforcements off their bench that I really like. Jordan Clarkson, Gershon Yabusele. They brought in Landry Shamet. They brought in Malcolm Brogdon. Like, this is a good roster. This is one of the best teams, potentially the best team in the Eastern Conference. So winning the East, at least making it to the conference finals. And if they lose to the Cavs in the conference finals, that's okay. But winning the East and making it and yeah, being a top tier team should be the expectation. You know, like these are the highest expectations the Knicks have had in a very, very long time. So winning the East, that's what the Knicks have right now. The 76ers, once again, another team that's just like, I don't really know what the expectations are. The expectation should be a deep playoff run. But realistically, last year was so bad. Paul George did not look great, and he's coming into the year kind of injured. Joel Embiid is still up in the air. We don't know what his health looks like. And when you have your superstar player and your second to third best player both up in the air on injuries, that's not a great sign. So for me, I put playoff series win and show some hope. More on the show hope and show that, there is, show that they can be a contender in the Eastern Conference. Because realistically, that's what they should be. The expectation should be contender, conference finals, deep playoff run. Like that should be what the expectation is. But after last year and what it looks like right now in Philadelphia, they're a big question mark. They're a big swing factor in the East. Where if things go right, they're one of the top 3 teams in the East and they can make a deep playoff run. Things go wrong, and things are looking like what they did last year, and now it's kind of like a red alarm in Philadelphia. So I kind of put my expectation in the middle of like, can we win a playoff series? We have the talent to be able to win a playoff series. We should be able to do that. And can we show some hope? Maybe not more for the fans, but more for the organization that we're doing the right thing here. For the Suns, I put young development. The era of them trying to win a championship has unfortunately kind of gone past them. No Kevin Durant. They got off the Bradley Beal contract. Now it's Devin Booker, and they brought in a bunch of young guys. They have Jalen Green now is here. They drafted Kamal Maluach, Kobe Brea. They have Ryan Dunn, Osogudaro. A lot of young guys around here. And so I think the expectation for them should be to be able to develop the young guys. What can we see from Jalen Green? Can we turn Jalen Green into a better NBA player than what he is and finally figure out a role for him? What does Kamal Maluach look like in year 1? Can Kobe Bryant be a rotational player? Ryan Dunn in year 2, what can he be? Like, we know Devin Booker is going to be Devin Booker. He's going to be a superstar. He's going to be all NBA type of player. But they brought in a coach like Jordan Ott, I think is his name. I keep mixing his name Jordan Johnny. I don't remember for some reason. But he's more of a developmental type of coach. So can we develop some of these young players? For the Blazers, I also put young development / play-in. Last year, they had a really hot run in the middle of the season, and they were not that far away from making the play-in. So I think the bigger idea is the young development of this team, because there's still big question marks, like who is the centerpiece of this team? Is it Deni Avdija, who I think it probably could be? What is Shaedon Sharpe? Can we finally figure out what Shaedon Sharpe is and what his role is on this team? Scoot Henderson going into a big kind of make or break year 3. Can he show any signs of life? Donovan Clingan is now probably going to be the full-time starting center. What can he look like? Toumani Camara. Like, there's still a lot of young pieces shuffling around on this team, and there's still nothing really like fully guaranteed. This is what this player is on our roster. Aside like Toumani Camara, I guess, is going to be like our elite role player of the future. There's still nothing really locked in. So I think the young development is more important, but also I don't think this should be a tanking team. They should be a team trying to win 20 games. Like they should have expectations, and I think a playing appearance is not out of the question for this team too. So I think developing these young guys while still trying to find some competitive nature in this season. For the Kings, I put make playoffs. I don't know what are the Kings. I don't really know what they are. They have players that I like individually. Sabonis is good. Zach LaVine is good. DeMar DeRozan is good. Malik Monk is good. Dennis Schroeder is good. Is John Kuminga coming to this team? I don't know. Is Russell Westbrook coming to this team? I don't know. But the moves they make are very weird. They're not a good team in the West, but they are the poster child of the mid in the NBA, where they're not good enough to be a playoff lock for sure. They're not even a top 8 lock. Realistically, they're probably between 9 and 10 in the West, but they're not horrible. They have good enough players that they're going to put up numbers and they're going to be able to win 30 games. So it's like I guess the expectation for them, I guess, is going to be always going to be to make the playoffs and try to recapture any of that magic that they showed in 2023. But yeah, the Kings are just always in this spot of like I don't know what's going on in Sacramento, man. I don't think anybody. I don't think they know what's going on over there. For the Spurs, I put something similar to the Blazers, play-in / young development. I think the Spurs team is good enough where they're not a 20-win team anymore. I don't think they're a playoff lock though. But they have a high ceiling where if things all go right, they are a playoff team. But I think a play-in appearance should be on the docket for San Antonio. Wemby is back. De'Aaron Fox is here. We have some good players around them. Stephon Castle had a really good rookie year. Dylan Harper is here. We brought in Luke Cornett. We have Devin Vassell still. Jeremy Sohan, Justin Champagnie. They have this is a solid roster for sure. This is a good roster. Keldon Johnson is still here. Like, this is a good roster they put together. Now, can we make a play-in push potentially? But more the young development, kind of like, trying to figure out who are the locks on this roster. Like Devin Vassell is very up in the air. Of like, is he a guy in the future? Is he a starter in the future, or is he not really? Is Jeremy Sohan? Is he a potential good role player on this team or not? So, what is Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper? How is that going to look? Comparing him with a guy like De'Aaron Fox. So they're still trying to figure things out. They're still trying to put this team together and still trying to answer questions on this roster outside of Victor Wembanyama. But they also should be trying to be competitive and trying to make a play-in push for sure and trying to have some, competitive fire this season. Toronto Raptors, they're another interesting team to kind of figure out what their expectations should be. For me, I put play-in question mark / show promise. They have on paper, they have a lot of good players. Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Jakob Poeltl, Grady Dick. Like, there are good players on this roster, for sure. We have not seen them all together yet. Last year was a very injury-plagued year. IQ missed a whole bunch of the season. Brandon Ingram didn't play at all. Scotty was kind of in and out. Like, it was a very injury-plagued season. And, we have not seen this team fully together yet, and there are some question marks for sure. A lot of their guys kind of need the ball in their hands. A lot of these guys kind of have similar play styles. Like to get to the basket mid-range, not really good three-point shooters. Like, there's still big question marks on how this team fit together-wise looks, and we haven't seen it yet. But I think they definitely can be a play-in team. Definitely could be a playoff team in the East. If things go right, they can be a 7 to 8 seed in the East and have a competitive, maybe not competitive, but make a playoff appearance. But I think more over playoff and play-in, show some promise. Meaning, show that there is something here and that we're building something right. Maybe not all 4 of these guys work out well, but if 2 or 3 of these guys look like they really fit together, then that could be promise. And then we worry about whoever doesn't fit later. But showing some promise that the fit concerns are not a big issue and showing that some of these guys, can Brandon Ingram have a really good, I think Brandon Ingram can have an all-star season next year. And I think when that happens, that's a big win for Toronto. Scotty Barnes, can he show that, he is the future guy that they want to build around? Can IQ show that he is a starting point guard in this league? Can RJ Barrett show that, he is a good player on a competitive team? So like even some of the young guys, like what does Grady Dick look like? What does Jacoby Walter look like? Colin Murray Boyles, how does he fit in this equation? So I think more over showing some promise and showing that we know what we're doing with putting this team together and there is some fit here. I think it's important. But I think if things go right, they could be a playoff team. For the Jazz, young development, they're going to be one of the worst teams, potentially the worst team in the league next season. And it's about young development because they are a team that they still haven't really figured out they're still big question marks for Utah. They still haven't really figured out the centerpiece of the future for this team. Lauri Markkanen, we know, is their best player, but again, he's like 28, 29 years old. Like, he's not going to be around for a long time, And so, like, they haven't really found their guy yet. They hope that it's Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey has the biggest chance to be the guy of the future. But besides that, like, Keontae George hasn't really been super great. We haven't seen Taylor Hendricks yet because of his injury. Isaiah Collier is solid, but how good is he realistically? Like, there's still big question marks on, like, what is the future of this team? No one has. Cody Williams didn't have a good rookie season at all. The biggest kind of the guys that have shown the most are like Walker Kessler, but even then, who knows how long is he going to be here? He's been in trade rumors since after his rookie season, so who knows how long he's going to be here. The only guys that have really shown like they could be some part of his future is like Kyle Filipowski, who was a second round pick, and again it was like summer league. So and realistically, what is the ceiling? And Bryce Sensabaugh. Those are the only two guys that have really shown like good promise, and even then, those guys don't really have high ceilings. Like I don't think those guys are ever going to be all-star, superstar like players. So really, they're kind of just relying on Ace Bailey to hopefully be, a top 5 pick, and look like a top 5 pick. But yeah, it's about developing the young players. I think is a kind of a little bit of a make or break year for a lot of some of these guys that they have on this roster. So young development for sure is like the number one key, and probably getting a number 1 overall pick and finding a guy maybe like a AJ DeBonsta or Cam Boozer next year and hope that, they can get gifted, a future superstar. And finally, Washington Wizards, young development. I like what the Wizards are putting together. I like a lot of the players that they have on this roster. I think they had a good rookie class. I think Alex Sarr is solid. I don't know what his ceiling is, but I think Alex Sarr is a good player. I think Bub Carrington is solid. I think Keyshawn George has shown a lot of potential. They brought in Trey Johnson, who wowed a lot in Summer League. I think he can be really good. Will Riley can be solid. Black Coulibaly is still kind of up in the air, question mark. Like, they have some good things happening over here in Washington. Like, I like a lot of the young players they have. It's more about developing them. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league again. It's about developing them. They have the vets now, guys like CJ McCollum, Chris Middleton, that hopefully can help these young guys out a lot. But they have something going on a little bit in Washington. So it's about developing them and kind of similar, like, what can we find the guys that we know, like, all right, this dude is a lock for this team. He's going to be on our team when we're good. Like, finding out what like, out of the crop of young players, who's going to be the guys. And yeah, that's going to be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed a pretty long video. Let me know down in the comment section below what your expectations are for some of these teams, for your favorite team, maybe what the expectation is supposed to be and all that stuff. I'd like to know. Once again, if you like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn on notifications, doing all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.